Hello, Jonny Long here with another advert for you. Now just be thankful I'm not trying to sell you ketones or subscriptions to some mental health app. Anyway, the reason I'm not here selling you any of that stuff is because I've got something much better and much cheaper, which actually helps us keep those sorts of ads at bay. We're running our $1 promotion again during this Tour de France, which means you can sign up for just $1 or £1 or €1 and access all of our articles and member-only podcasts for a month. Support independent cycling journalism. Ensure these are the only sorts of ads you hear on our podcast or see on our site. Join the movement in this little corner of the internet. Come on. You're presumably listening to this podcast of your own free will, maybe even enjoying it. Let's dare to hope. I understand if you've been on the fence about signing up for yet another subscription. So what we're trying to do is tease you into it, lure you, and once you're in and you're all warm and nice, you'll never want to leave. That's the name of this capitalist game. Don't resist it. Come on home. So visit escapecollective.com/TDF to take up this special limited time offer. $1, escapecollective.com/TDF. What else can you actually buy for $1 these days? With inflation, that dollar is just going to keep becoming worth less and less, so you might as well spend it now.
Welcome back to the Escape Collective Tour Daily Podcast, everybody. I'm Caley Fretz. Jonny Long, set the scene.
Someone's just buzzed into their apartment behind me. We are in a little alleyway at a bar in Florence. Beers are out, spritzers are out, but most importantly, sitting across from me is our special guest returning for another year, Joshua Robinson of the Wall Street Journal. Welcome back.
It is a privilege.
You have your own hashtag now. Do you know that?
I do?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hashtag JROTWSJ.
The last three were the easiest letters to do of the whole acronym.
I was making sure I got all of them in.
I see.
Anyway, that came from the members, and we're going to start using it. So I think whenever we have a pod with Josh in it, which is most of the month, actually, then we'll chuck it in there.
I'm so touched.
So you're here for a couple days here, and then you're off back to the Euros.
Yeah, through the Grand Depart and back to the Euros in Germany, which is a whole different vibe, or vibe, as they say in Germany. And then
which I love.
Back here for week 3.
We're going to be referring to them as vibes for the rest of the month.
Very, very good vibes. Just
good
like
one. That. Exactly. Just like that.
Impeccable German accent. Jonny, we do have a fair amount to talk about today. Tomorrow, the Tour de France starts, which is very exciting. This is Tour de France Eve right now. We're going to talk about Visma Lisa Bike's control room van thing and the UCI's
Visma's one
hate for it and whether we think it might actually get banned or something. We have a couple mailbag questions that came in from Discord. A bit of an announcement on that front, actually. We're going to be running mailbags throughout the month. We also want your takes, so not just questions, but takes. If you head to escapecollective.com/hello, there's a button you can click on that page. And when you click that button, you can record something, and that goes to my inbox. And that audio we can then drop into the show. So if you've got a hot take, a cold take,
piping hot and freezing cold, both varieties are
we don't want any medium takes. We want piping hot or really cold takes. Or questions. We are going to do questions as always. So yeah, head over to escapecollective.com/hello and drop your takes in. We're also going to hear from José Been for the first time this tour. Those are going to be in every single episode throughout the next 3 weeks. We're going to hear very briefly from Jack Haig and Fred Wright, who had a little chat for Jack's rest day pod. We're going to throw that in the end of the show. But first, we do need to check in on the vibes from yesterday's press conference. So, Jonny, we were in the room with Tadej Pogačar and Jonas Vingegaard. We missed Roglic because we were late.
It wasn't very clear.
We know that he was happy.
He apparently thanked the media. No, thanked. He said he wanted to stay. He didn't want to go. So I don't know what else he had planned for that evening, but it was worse than talking to a room of sweaty, Belgian dudes.
What does that say about his new team?
Sweaty.
It was
very sweaty.
It was horrific. Everything smelled.
Yeah. I think I mentioned that to you, actually. We were standing...
You said, I forgot the smells, in with quite a withered tone.
Withered, jaded, sad, yeah.
But it was slightly informative. middlingly informative.
Yeah.
Pogačar seemed nervous, you were saying, which I agree with.
He seemed quiet.
It was like 2021 Pogačar when he still hadn't really figured out what and how he was supposed to say stuff. I think that may have just been the room, because it was like... So the building we're in was the Palazzo Vecchio, which dates back to like Roman times, where it was a theatre, then became like tower housing, then got built into the palaces today. And it's now houses the mayor. So there's all these sorts of like UN style seats with the little
microphones.
Yeah, if you're at a bike race in Italy, that's always where the press conferences and stuff are held. And it's just it's too formal, and it really like takes away from the actual thing. But I think that, and he was like right in the middle, like in like a little pulpit of it, and I could see that being intimidating. So maybe it was that. Maybe it was just like he's stressed and nervous about what's to come.
You know what sort of like triggered it for me was they switched into Slovenian for the last couple of questions, and generally when we hear him switch into Slovenian, he kind of perks up. Right? Like he has a bit more energy to him. The ums and ahs tend to go away. And that didn't happen when he switched to Slovenian. I was just like, he's just a little bit kind of down. And the other thing that we found out in this press conference, which they'd kept hidden, was the fact that he had COVID 10 days ago.
Yeah, I mean, so two things. One, the COVID was quite a revelation, especially because we've been thinking about COVID in the context of Sepp Kuss.
Yep.
And he's missing the Tour because of it. And Pogačar just played it off like it was, that kept me off the bike for like a day. And then I was back on the rollers the next day, in this formal UN setting, while presumably about to get yelled at by the delegate from the Soviet Union.
Was that Stephen Ferran from Cycling News in the corner, who also had this big sort of angry looking flag behind him, which was quite the motif.
But yeah, just a bit kind of quiet and odd, and I don't know what to really make of that. I mean, anything we say about that is a bit of sort of, I don't know, speculation and psychology there.
I mean, he also said that he's feeling the best he's ever felt.
He did say that.
Yeah.
I mean...
You know who's not feeling the best he's ever felt?
Jonas
Vingegaard. He was, he was very careful, and he's always very careful with his words, right? And the primary thrust, and he must have said some version of this answer 5 different times, was, I'm just happy to be here. Everything else is a bonus, right? I mean, he said literally that exact thing numerous times to numerous different questions, right? Which means it was the thing that he was prepared with by the press officer, by himself, maybe, who knows. At that team, definitely a press officer.
No one has sounded less like a 2-time champion of anything than Jonas did yesterday.
Yeah. Maybe he's here to start because he's the defending champion, but he had... His tattoo, by the way, the butterfly tattoo, does appear to be real because it was still there. But he also had a new temporary tattoo on his top of his hand of Marshall from Paw Patrol.
Yep.
Caley, you identified it pretty
fast.
You
identified Marshall from Paw Patrol.
Real quick.
My daughter's not super into Paw Patrol, but I've seen enough of it to know
As
Marshall.
a father of 2, though, if you're also 2-time defending Tour de France champion, who's supposed to be dialed in at this point, ready to do it, are you going to be having like Marshall from Paw Patrol on your hand? Are we going into the territory of like Caleb Williams has his fingernails painted pink, he's an unserious quarterback? I don't want to go that far, but...
I will say, as a father of 2, I would put the Paw Patrol tattoo on my hand in pretty much any instance that my daughter asked me to.
Okay,
because we are wrapped around their little fingers.
My theory is debunked then.
Okay, but as a father of 2, would you TT and descend as required to win the Tour de France?
No, I wouldn't. I absolutely would not. I descend very slowly these days, and I did not used to do so.
Do you think at some point Jonas Vingegaard has explained to Christian Nierman what Paw Patrol is? And how do you think that conversation went?
I thought Christian Nierman has like 5 kids. He definitely knows.
No, but I think they're a bit older.
So maybe
Paw Patrol is a fairly recent invention.
Anything else from Jonas? The only other thing that struck me, and this strikes me every single time we see these guys in regular clothing, is they are deeply unthreatening human beings.
The Sickly Boy Prince, SBP.
Yeah, the Sickly Boy Prince, exactly. Like I put up a video of Vingegaard walking toward his little press conference, and I put the Imperial March behind it, and it just was so jarring in how it didn't make any sense that they're just tiny. They're tiny. You look at them from behind, and their elbows are wider than their thighs.
Wout van Aert's not tiny. Wout van Aert's not tiny.
No, Wout van Aert's a large man.
He's a unit in cycling terms.
He looks like he could be an athlete in another sport.
Yeah.
Not a huge sport, but like a tennis player.
He could be, or a soccer player, football player.
So what's the cycling equivalent of like going from baseball to the NFL or baseball to basketball? Like water polo?
No,
running
polo,
is running, isn't it? Running is cycling. Anyway.
Should we talk about the control van? So this is the other story that kind of popped out the last couple days. We had an indication that Visma was going to be doing something interesting because they kept sort of hinting at it, tweeting things. And then we got a video that was a tour of the van, sort of.
Yeah.
And basically this thing is, the idea, I think, is sound, which is that you take some of the major decision-making and you take it out of the chaos of a team car and you put it somewhere else, right? I should also say that this is not like totally unique. This is already kind of happening, right? Like the directors of the team car are already getting information from people watching at home on television and giving them info.
Yeah.
The difference here is that they've branded it up. They've made it
into a mystery machine.
Sponsor activation.
Yeah.
And they've added up a whole bunch of stuff in it, right? And like, we kind of saw the inside of it. You had maps and Twitter, which of course is where all the best tactics come from. We had weather. We had
list of the GC.
Yep, list of the GC. See who's winning. It's important to know who's winning at all points in time.
Right. In theory, it's not so different from the pit wall in Formula One, or having your offensive and defensive coordinators like sitting in a booth at the top of the stadium, like where they get a full sort of calmer view of what's going on. But I think my question is for you guys is like, is there that much more information to be gleaned? I mean, from Twitter and a map of the course.
So we talked to a coach. We talked to Ben Healy's coach. He's worked with a lot of World Tour riders. He kind of knows what data is available. Jacob Tipper.
Yeah.
And what did Tipper say?
The main thing I took away, I'm trying to remember what he said. The main thing that I took away was he said, well, the van is kind of a bit superfluous and maybe it's just there to sort of intimidate the opposition, because it's like, before this, it was you turn up with the biggest bus.
Right.
And biggest bus is like, oh, we've got a bigger bus than you. We're amazing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of true. You don't need to be in this sweaty little bus just boiling to death at the side of like an A road in France. So he thought maybe it's a bit of a sports psychology thing. He also said that it's not necessarily about what the data they collect is going to be used in this year's race. It's about finding out how to best use this in the future and collecting data now to then inform it going down the road. Maybe it does. I mean, if you've got like €50 million budget, then I guess you can spare like 100 grand or whatever
to build out a van.
Like someone in a van. Is it going to be Patrick Bro, the Lantern Rouge guy? Because he's now an official part of the management.
I don't know.
Is he going to be like on the radio telling Jens Vingegaard what to do and then recording the podcast at the same time and just like switch in between? I don't know. But look, it's innovative. I think I can't wait till Ronan arrives and we can ask him what he thinks of the van. Because I think I'm quite anti the van just on...
I just think the van is largely irrelevant. I think the van is not going to do much at all. However, the UCI disagrees. The UCI came out, and the reason why we wrote the story, because the van itself was maybe not interesting enough, but the UCI almost immediately came out and said, we are investigating the van and what is happening in the van. and specifically what I think they're probably looking for is there's a set of rules in the UCI rulebook, 1.3.006 BIS. Don't know.
You nerd.
I don't know. Anyway, the rules are around essentially what data you can transfer from a rider and their bike
in real time
to some other location.
Yeah.
Right? So you can transfer data and use data from the bicycle itself, mechanical data. That would include power data, cadence, speed, location, what gear they're in, right? Like that stuff is all available from any electronic group set. What you can't do is you cannot transfer and use like biological data,
like heart
rate, sweat rate, core temperature, glucose monitoring is banned entirely. So I think that's one of the things that the UCI will be sort of checking for, is whether they are pulling that sort of information, whether they're trying to use that sort of information. Because, for example, having riders' heart rate in addition to their power and watching that decoupling would be a potentially useful data point. You could essentially watch in real time how close they are to blowing up, right?
Yeah.
But they cannot technically do that. So I think that's mostly what the UCI is probably checking for, but they also might just ban it because they don't like it, because that's what they've done previously, right? And they also just they don't like additional vehicles. They don't like anything that they think other teams might not have. I mean, the press release that they sent out specifically mentioned one of the sort of founding principles of the Lugano Charter, which is where the rules came from, which is the primacy of man over machine and sort of equality amongst different teams, right? So you mentioned these two things, and I think they could potentially ban it just on those grounds.
Right. There was a year at the Giro, I think, where Sky in those days tried to bring a camper van for Geraint Thomas.
Yep.
Oh, Thomas, yeah.
Was that right?
Or was it Richie Porte? I can't remember. One of the guys. It was that era.
Yeah. I think they tried it twice, actually. I think they tried different versions.
And it was just the idea that, like, hey, the race randomly, quote unquote, puts you in hotels and everyone has to deal with the same thing.
Yep.
You can't have your, like, 5-star Airstream.
Which does
with air conditioning.
Which does seem ridiculous, because when you are staying at the same hotel as a tour team and you look into the car park, it's just taken over. Like, now they sometimes have like a couple buses. They have so many cars. They've got the van that has the catering van, and then also like the mechanics van that has all the spare bikes in it. Like,
No one eats in the hotels anymore.
No.
Everyone is eating, or they eat in the hotels, but no one's cooking in those kitchens anymore. No one is consuming any of the food that's coming from there. That is, like, ASO said, you guys are in this company tonight.
Yeah.
This is where you're gonna eat. Not true anymore.
No.
You're not rocking the Formula.
No, it's like basically if you imagine like how they film like a Hollywood movie with like the catering truck and stuff like that, and all those vehicles and how it just takes over an area, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like a movie set in every parking lot.
But just with guys who can't act a bit.
Should we have a van?
And for what? To monitor Twitter. We already just do that anyway. That's literally what we spend our whole days doing.
We
now
could put
just
Joe in it.
Joe would be good
ready
in it.
to sub and pub at a moment's notice.
That'd be good. You've got your camper that you usually record the podcast from. You kind of you beat Visma to the punch there with your. It's just a bit more methy, your camper.
Slightly more methy.
Yeah. Not currently. Previously.
No, it's great. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to do a little mailbag. We got some questions coming in from Discord. We also have a live studio audience.
Unprompted. We didn't prep that.
We didn't put the sign up that said applause or anything like that. Yeah. So we'll maybe get some questions from the live studio audience as well.
Yeah.
Let's kick off with a question from John on Discord. Barring accidents, do you think that there will be gaps by the end of Stage 4 that will decide the podium? So Stage 4, of course, being the Galibier stage, the first major mountain stage of the race. Although, as we were looking at yesterday, Stage 4 has the same amount of climbing, or roughly the same amount of climbing, as Stage 1, just over the course of, 2 or 3 climbs instead of, 8.
I mean...
What do we think?
Do you think there'll be gaps at the end of Stage 1 before even Stage 4?
I think there are going to be gaps Stage 1 tomorrow. I don't think that those gaps are going to be that massive. I think based on what we saw at the press conferences yesterday, I think both Pogačar and Vingegaard are a little bit they're going to be a little bit more conservative, maybe.
Yeah.
So what do we think? Stage 4 is the Galibier enough to start to decide the podium that early?
No. I think it's a nice idea. It's a tough climb, but I think people will save their pennies for later in the race. I think it's too soon to take those risks.
I think it may decide first place.
You think?
I think we may already have Pogačar in yellow.
I think that's
but second and third are up in the air.
I think there's a decent chance we have Pogačar in yellow tomorrow.
Agreed.
And I think that if not, then almost certainly by Stage 4, assuming that he is feeling as good as he says he is. It is, so they go over the Galibier, they go over from the quote-unquote easy side, a mere, 30K at 5%, something like that?
Yeah, not much.
Only a 30K climb.
Easy.
Then they go down the other side, which is the side they went up last year, yes. So my pick for that is actually not Pogačar, it's Pidcock. Because if he can hang on, and he is able to hang on over that climb, which the other thing about that side of the Galibier is often it's a headwind all the way up, because they're going up the valley. Bit of a headwind up the Galibier, and then you drop down the other side, and the stage finishes actually in Belvoir. And if there's one thing we know about Tom Pidcock is that he can go down like a bat out of hell. So that's my, if I'm going to pick somebody for Stage 4, we will get to picks later in the show. But my pick for Stage 4, I think that's a pretty good bet. Somebody who can go downhill real fast and is going to go over the top in that front group. I'm sure he's already identified it as a potential stage for him. Question 2.
Yeah.
From Martin over on Discord as well. In the Contenders and Storylines pod, you discussed GC riders and sprinters. What I want to know is, which riders are you most excited about watching this tour? He provides a couple examples. Lascano, Bettiol, Healy, Van Gils. I would have put Victor Lafay in there, but he's not here,
He's not here.
which is sad. But like, who's going to be the Victor Lafay of the 2024 Tour de France?
Ben Healy? I was actually supposed to be interviewing him right now while the podcast is going on. But tell him, sorry, Ben.
EF moved their press thing.
They mean the press things, they're staying... what the teams do when we have these Grand Departs is that they put their hotels, like, annoyingly slightly far away from where it's easy to get to, which makes sense because they're like...
They don't want us there.
They don't want us there, and it's like space issue. Ben Healy, I think, is someone to look out for. He's chopped all of his hair off, and he's dyed it all blonde. And I think you only do that if you're feeling...
How did he both chop it all off and dye it all blonde?
How did he do it?
It's not all off. He didn't like buzz cut himself.
Well, like
the stumps.
Okay, he's got about he's got like 90% less hair.
Okay.
It's like a considerable cut, and it's all.
He
like
was a man
90s
of
boy
much hair
band.
previously.
He was.
Yeah.
He's gone from like a rock band to like 90s boy band.
Interesting.
And I think if you're doing that, you've got to be confident. It's like the football player who turns up with like really bright boots, and it's like, well, you're either going to be good or you're going to be terrible.
Right. There's
And we know
there's
he's
nothing
good.
in the middle.
Yeah. I
Ben
think
Healy?
Lescano's a good one. Bettiol's he's got the Tricolore, the national champions jersey.
Yep.
I think he lives fairly local to here, or is from near here, so he'll be going for the yellow jersey on stage 1. EF have a good team, and Richard Carapaz isn't necessarily going for a GC, so he'll be trying for stages. So
I'm intrigued to see how 9 pounds of sausage and an 8-pound sack gets on.
He was
Arnaud Delis.
the bull.
Yep, Arnaud Delis, Belgian champion, out-sprinted Wout van Aert recently, and Wout mentioned this in the press conference yesterday. He's like, I just didn't have the legs that day, and he's hoping they come around.
Well, and speaking of haircuts, he's also got a new haircut. For winning the Belgian championships, he lost a bet, which meant he had to give himself like an Aussie mullet.
Wait, he won the race, but in doing so lost a bet?
I think so, with his friend.
So he bet against himself.
I think so. Or his friend was like, oh, if you win it, then you got to do this. One of those ones. And so he's like giving himself an undercut on the side, then it's like a curly mane, like sort of going down the back. What about, he's not the sickly boy prince, he's like the sickly boy prince's page boy. Lenny Martinez. Potentially the smallest man I've ever seen.
He's incredibly small.
Honestly, I'm kind of excited to see Matteo Jorgensen in like the Sepp Kuss job.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, are they big shoes to fill, literally? I don't know, but it's a lot of spinning
like
to fill.
43, 42 and a half, not that big.
Yeah, but I think like suddenly he's had a battlefield promotion for this tour. Everyone takes one step to the left, and he's going to be in charge of taking the sickly boy prince up the mountains.
I should know what size shoes Sepp Kuss has, because every time there's like a Devo swap in Durango, there's a whole bunch of like old Sepp stuff, and all the kids end up with it. So I could legitimately have held Sepp Kuss shoes in my hands numerous times.
Okay, well, if this storyline develops, then we will be finding out. Or if Vingegaard doesn't his race pan out the way he wanted to, will we see Jorgensen free to either go for like a good placing on GC or a stage?
Free Matteo?
Yeah.
Should we be the first to start the Free Matteo campaign?
GC Jorgensen?
Mayo Jorg.
Mayo Jorg? We're going to get there.
We'll get there. If
15,
we start now,
15 to 30 minutes, we should be there. Live.
By the first rest day, we'll have an answer.
We'll do it live.
I'm looking down the list for other people. Remco Evenepoel, he was an interesting spot yesterday because for the first time first time in a long time, he's not wearing a World Champs jersey or a Belgian National Champions jersey. He's just got the bog standard Soudal Quick-Step kit on, which kind of humanises him a lot. Because he's just like...
Is that like when Sagan was just wearing normal kit again?
Kind of, yeah.
Very
But then
weird.
the difference is that Evenepoel's 24 and you're like, I haven't seen you in that kit for like so long.
Any questions from the audience about the first couple days?
About anything.
About literally anything? Hot takes?
Doesn't have to be.
All right, you say it, then I'll repeat it. Yeah, Bart Lemon.
Bart Lemons. Yeah, for Sepp. Yeah, Bart Lemons was in the Dutch Air Force and then some sort of competition. Oh, no, he wasn't even competition. He was just on Zwift. And then I think some Visma riders spotted him. And they were like, we should look at this guy. which doesn't seem like the level.
José did a great piece on him.
Yeah.
If you want to go check out more on the rider called up at the last minute to fill Sepp's shoes in a way. He's not quite the same kind of rider, but it's not too far off. We got a great piece on the site.
You know how we spoke about the inevitable Arise Sir Cav headline?
Oh, God, yeah.
When will we have the When Life Gives You Lemons headline?
I mean, he'd have to win something this month.
Yeah, but or it could be like a second rest day, like, oh, here's this guy that's been helping Jonas.
I mean, should we go do an interview with him so we can write the headline?
I don't know. It makes me feel a bit icky. Does life want lemons? What else have we got?
Questions?
Takes.
Otherwise,
Should we get picks?
If you could choose any country for the tour to start in, obviously we're in Italy, but if you could have your pick, what would it be?
Italy.
It has been good
This
here.
has been good. This has been a really good start. I wasn't in Copenhagen.
Copenhagen was fun.
You guys had fun in Copenhagen.
The Basque
I've-
Country was good.
Basque Country was
Basque
good, but
yeah,
also
but it was kind of
it was chaotic.
yeah. It was
Yeah,
very
this is
stressful.
Italy, famously not chaotic.
No, but it
It's not
genuinely
been-
feels a little bit more relaxed
You
here
get
for some reason.
food whenever, wherever you want.
Yeah.
Everyone is nice to you. It's
Yeah,
great.
we're just mentally preparing ourselves to be hated.
treated like
treated
but
like
we're
dirt
also
for the next 2
we're
weeks.
also confined by UCI rules, right? Because you can't have a transfer longer than 5 hours. So this has been the big hurdle over the years for the Giro, which
Right.
would love to do a Grande Partenza in the US,
Yep.
but they cannot work it out to go to like New
Bring
York
back
or DC.
Concord.
Well, and apparently, so the mayor in D.C., which is where they were talking about bringing the
Yeah.
Giro there for a while, he's no longer the mayor. So I think it's
Ah.
impossible now. Like, so that's it was a fever
Was,
dream of the late 20 teens.
I never went to any of the UK Grande Parts. Were they good?
They were really
Yorkshire
good.
was
Yorkshire
pretty
was
great.
incredible.
Yorkshire was good.
Yeah.
I'd like to do
Food, less good than Florence.
that. You're joking. You're joking. See, London would be fun, but not great riding.
Yeah.
Just be a
No,
sprint.
this is perfect. Florence is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
believe
something on the
Caley-
edge.
I believe Caley's position is that every Grande Depart should be
It
in Italy.
should be in Italy. Yeah, and maybe the whole race could just stay here.
Well, next year,
Forgetting that there is.
No, I've never
the
heard
whole
of it.
Giro. Next year it's Lille,
Yeah, but
which is our
it-
punishment.
I guess to belabor that point, if the Giro was more important than the Tour de France, I would be totally okay with that. Like, that would be incredible. I
We
would.
have
I'm telling you
Barcelona
so.
in
Yeah.
2026, which was announced last week.
Barcelona will be good.
So that would be good.
We get beautiful Lille.
Ronan's looking forward to that already.
Ronan loves Lille. It's his favorite town.
We might have to miss like Roubaix next year just because I can't do that
We
much
can't do
Lille
Lille
in-
twice. Yeah.
Nah, Lille's kind of fine. Maybe.
They should just do 3 days of cobbles for that.
Yeah.
Everyone would
What's
hate
the
them for it.
Before we head over to, we're going so in today's episode, we're also going to drop in about 5 minutes from a really good chat that Jack Haig had with Fred Wright that is available on the Rest Day pod. So make sure you go and subscribe to the Rest Day podcast, Rest Day with Jack Haig. If you search for that on wherever you get your podcasts, you will find it. So you can listen to the whole thing there. But we wanted to drop a couple interesting minutes in this show. And then we've also got the return of José's cultural, cheese-related. Well, I don't even know how else to describe them.
It's a shame there
She
won't
tells
be
us
any.
about where we're about to go.
Yeah.
It's a shame
in very-
there's no material for that in Tuscany.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
culture.
I don't know what
no
she's
cheese.
spoken about.
So we'll get to
this
José
one.
at the end of the very end of the show. But first, fantasy picks for tomorrow. So
Yeah.
obviously everybody should be playing the Escape Collective fantasy game. EscapeCollective.com/fantasy. You still have time to sign up if you're listening to this podcast. And you just pick one rider a day, and you can't pick the same rider twice.
Easy.
So we're going to play it right now.
Should we say our picks and then we'll go around
The
group?
live studio audience also has to provide
Okay.
some picks. Yep.
Okay, you go first and we'll go around this way.
I
Pick for
am
stage
going,
one.
and I think this is actually wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway because I believe in him. And he's Italian. He's wearing the tricolore. He is, like you said, kind of from here. The finale is 20-something K that's sort of like downhill into Rimini tomorrow. So I'm saying Alberto Bettiol. I think it's too hard for him, but I want him to do it.
I'm going with the pick I've actually put into the game already, just because it's easier to get out of the way. And I've gone for Tadej Pogacar. Because then also, if I'm right, great. But if not, then it means we at least get 2 yellow jerseys.
True.
Because he'll probably take it on stage 4.
I will say that tactically for the fantasy game, I'm not sure that's the best decision.
But what if he could fall off on
Well, but so
stage
he-
4? Hopefully he doesn't.
Here's the thing. If you use him on a big mountain day, you're pretty much guaranteed he's going to be in the top 10 somewhere. Whereas tomorrow, he could be like 87.
Well, it's too late. I've looked. And I've said it now.
All right. Well, I'm just giving that little tidbit to everybody
Leo,
else.
you want to offer a name? Not for stage 1.
Come on, stage
Come
one.
on.
We won't hold you to it.
Primoz Roglic.
Love that. That would be great.
That would be
That'd
fantastic. That would be a great way to start this race.
Let me bring the mic round.
I think I have to take Tadej. I think he's going to go for yellow all the way.
Pick the Giro.
I went with Vanderpool.
Ooh.
Oh,
That'd be good.
That's actually the smartest of all of them.
Get him out of the way, and then because I don't think he'll be there at the end, but I think it's a good day for him to go for it.
I think Vanderpool is probably the brain pick, the head pick.
Nice.
Well, just to pick someone different, and also because I think he's got to come out all guns blazing to stand a chance. Let's go Remco.
Ooh,
Remco.
that'd be fun.
Bold. So the studio audience just reminded us that yesterday he said he was going for GC, not for stages.
They're always saying things, and you never know whether to believe them or not.
But like,
so annoying.
I struggle to think that Patrick Lefevre is okay with getting like 9th at the Tour de France, and that's all they get out of this tour.
Well, we had a whole
There's no
Unchained
way.
episode where he went on about how he has to win a stage.
Exactly. There's no way. There's no way. I also
Anyway.
think the Belgian public is going to rebel at some point against this GC push, which they just fundamentally don't care about. They want him to win Flanders, and that's all they want.
You can kill 2 birds with 1 stone tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's the first yellow jersey up for grabs, right? And a stage that is really, really difficult. I mean, we did a ride this morning. Mark here took us out. We rode like one of the 27 climbs they're going to do tomorrow, and we still climbed 3,000 feet, right? Like it's going to be a really nasty day. It's also going to be really hot. I think the temperature is like 95 Fahrenheit.
Yeah,
What's
it's
that,
hot
like
tomorrow.
38 or something
Yeah.
like that? So, yeah, 90% humidity. It's going to be miserable out there. And the yellow jersey on the line. So it'll be a good one.
There we go.
It'll be a good one. All right, let's head over to Jack Haig and Fred Wright talking, of all things, well, Fred didn't really know what they were called. Calipers, pinchers?
It was great.
They're talking about body fat,
Yeah.
basically, and some of the, I don't know, like sort of medical checks, nutrition checks that they do just ahead of the race to make sure that they're all good to go.
Yeah.
To start off with, Freddie, maybe we should talk about Tour de France. Starts in a couple of days. How you feeling?
Yeah, it's weird. I haven't quite been hit by the Tour de France kind of bug yet. You know, I've not got that excitement in me at the moment, but I'm sure as soon as we turn up for the team presentation, we see all the fans, all the people cheering. I think I'm going to have that feeling. Even riding the bike before the race, just on a little training ride today we did, I kind of just felt like any other race. It just said, oh, here we are. Nothing quite yet has made me feel that full Tour de France feeling. I don't know about you, Jack.
Do you think it's because we're in Italy for the start?
Maybe, yeah. I don't race so much in Italy, so kind of looking forward to the first 3 days. But yes, I'm sort of waiting for for it to really hit me. But I think today, taking all the photos, kind of, doing the team presentation. That's when the goosebumps start kicking in.
All right, maybe to give people an idea of these first couple of days before we get to Tour de France. Yesterday, you, Santi, and I drove from Andorra to the airport. We then traveled on the Wednesday, so 3 days before the start of the race. Slept in the hotel. This morning we woke up, had breakfast. We did the UCI blood control, actually, which is a mandatory thing where the UCI do a biological passport control as well as a human growth hormone control. And this is also a bit of a pre-Grand Tour medical check to basically make sure that there's nothing that is abnormal or unhealthy about our blood test before we start doing Grand Tour. And then we also did skin folds with the nutritionist.
Yeah.
Had breakfast, went for a training ride. Maybe run us through a little bit from...
Yes, it's quite an early... I think, luckily I'm sort of experienced enough now that it's not like any other race. Most races you get there 2 days before, in the evening maybe, 2 days before. You just have 1 day, chill in, quite relaxed, do a little spin, and then you go to start the race. But here it's, the kind of standard protocol has come... you got an extra day earlier because there is a whole day of team presentation and all these extra little bits to do that, like today, okay, we are squeezing in a podcast now for 30 minutes, which is, but this is actually, there's not really much time to think on a day like today. It's all full gas. We were up quite early actually.
Yeah, so...
maybe a little bit too early for my liking this morning, but...
Yeah, so... Wout and I had the control at 7 a.m.
You were even more unlucky than me.
You had it after us. Because you did skin folds.
But we were all up at 7. We were up at 7, which,
I
mean, for a normal person, normal job is kind of standard. But
maybe explain to people what skin folds are, actually, because some people might not realize this.
It's basically the nutritionist gets a set of... I don't know. They
Calibrated calipers.
Yeah, they're kind of they're their own thing. They're not really like anything, are they? It's like a set of tongs, but quite
like pincers.
Yeah, pincers, and there's 8 places on your body that they pinch at, and that tells them that you get a rough number, and it sort of tells you how much fat you've got in your body.
So basically, you take different points all across your body. So your arms, your abdomen, your back, your thighs, your calf. There's 8 of them. And then these pincers measure the millimeters of skin, which the nutritionist pulls away from your body. Yeah. And then you have the total amount of millimeters as the sum of 8. Yeah. And then this can be tracked throughout the season. And if you have more millimeters, you're theoretically carrying more fat. And if you have less millimeters, you're carrying a little bit less. But it doesn't necessarily 100% correlate. But it's just another way of monitoring body composition throughout the year. So we have the body weight, which we take with the scales. Then you also have generally at every single race we go to, we have a nutritionist. And do you do it every race? I normally do it every race.
Pretty much every race. I think even the past couple of years, I kind of know exactly. It's good to see trends, basically. Yeah. It's not, I wouldn't say it's the most, because it depends on nutritionist to nutritionist. Like here in the Tour, we've got a different nutritionist to the guy who did it for me in the Dauphiné. But most of the time, it gives you an idea of, where you're kind of
just another metric to track.
Yeah.
And to keep an eye on throughout
the year.
But
not to get too obsessed by it, because I think there are there are things that influence it. But it's.
Did you maybe have one of the lowest skin fold measurements?
Yes,
pre-tour.
This was, I think, potentially one of my lowest I've ever had, which is good. Is a good. Definitely, I'm in a good. Which you don't want to have a bad skin fold reading 2 days before the tour, because there's not really very much you can do about it if you
it's not very good for morale.
If you got high numbers, with such a big race like as this started, then you're not so good. But I'd like to think everyone is in very good shape. We have all worked very hard to be where we are now, ready for the biggest race of the year.
What do you think Fred Wright's body fat percentage is?
Low.
It's a little bit weird to be talking about, like in a sport with some real disordered eating problems, but
it doesn't sound like
it's
a
also
fun
a reality of
process
sport.
to go
So
through.
Yeah,
well, at least they're talking about it.
They are talking about it, and it was being done by a nutritionist.
Yeah,
not like a 60-year-old Belgian man telling them to stop eating or something like that.
Yeah,
so that's good. Let's head over to José. Again, José is back with her segments. Anybody who's listened to this podcast for the last couple of years will know exactly what I'm talking about. If not, well, you are in for a treat here. Back for another year. Day 1, José brings us a legend around the Duomo in Florence, which is where we started a ride this morning. That's called the Devil's Sigh.
Eerie.
Here we are again. It's another Tour de France, and it's another year of me, José Been, giving you daily podcast segments on things we can see alongside the route of both the men's and the women's race. I tell you about the history, the culture, the food, the geology, and about the cycling legends on the route. I love doing these, but I love your reactions even more. So here goes, stage 1. This year's Tour de France starts in Italy. The first time the Grand Départ took place outside of France was in 1954, in the Netherlands. Belgium, Germany, Switzerland, Luxembourg, Spain, Ireland, the UK, Monaco, and Denmark followed, but this is the first time the race starts in neighbouring country, Italy. The Giro did start in France, in Nice in 1998, but for the French, this is the first time in Italy. For a start, that is, because we did occasionally cross the border. Nice and Sanremo are just 50 kilometers apart. The start takes place in Florence, or Firenze, as the Italians call it. It's the capital of Tuscany. Florence has the highest concentrations of works of art per square kilometre of any city, the internet tells me. I wonder how you count that, because what is art? Apart from this metaphysical dilemma, it is true that there is a lot to see in this beautiful city. You could say it's legendary. One such legend is situated near the world-famous Cattedrale di Santa Maria del Fiore, or better known as the Duomo. Crossing the Piazza Duomo, you will suddenly find yourself in a vortex, a whirlwind. Behind this phenomenon lies an ancient legend, and I love a good legend. Near Via della Studio, you feel a breeze that in the colder months turns into intense wind. This wind that ruffles your hair is nothing more than the rifrulo del diavolo. It's the devil's sigh, or the devil's wind, in Florentine law. It is a strange atmospheric phenomenon that hides behind a harrowing legend. It is said that a long time ago, the devil was looking for souls to take down to hell with him. He saw a priest and chased him down through the streets of Florence. After a tense few moments, the devil caught up with the priest in front of the Duomo. Knowing what the devil was after, the priest told the devil that he wanted to pray one last time before suffering eternal damnation. The devil agreed. The priest went inside the Duomo and the devil waited outside for him to come back out. Everyone knows the devil is not very keen on churches, and the priest took advantage of this moment to escape, using another one of the doors of the cathedral without the devil noticing. Meanwhile, the devil, bored from the long wait, let out a sigh. Other stories say he fell asleep and started snoring. Anyways, his breath created a slight breeze. Once he discovered the deception, his breath of evil turned into a veritable whirlwind, and since then, the rifrulo del diavolo has never ceased blowing. The devil's breath still waits in vain for his chosen bait to come out of the church. Let's just hope the peloton won't have a devilish headwind into Rimini tomorrow.
Thanks for that, Jose. All right, so we have our picks. We're ready. Our fantasy games are ready.
We've previewed the race and the stage within an inch of its life by this point. All that's left is for it to actually start.
It must start now. I will remind everybody that for $1, you can get a membership to Escape Collective right now.
For the first month.
Try it out for the month. See if you like it. I think you will. No paywall, bonus episodes of the podcast, all the rest. I mean, you could be in the Discord. You could even show up to a live studio audience taping of the pod at some point this month. We'll be doing more. Don't know when or where, but we will do more. So go do that. Head over to escapecollective.com/TDF and get that $1 promo going. All right, we'll be back tomorrow
in
Rimini. From
on
Rimini,
the coast.
the unfortunate place of death of Marco Pantani.
Yes.
Is where we'll be tomorrow.
See you then.
We'll see you there.